Hello and welcome to AI Future or Fiction. Today we are going to discover the dangerous illusion of the red button. Have you ever felt the calm of believing you have total control? Imagine the extreme tension in a nuclear command center or in an airplane cockpit. We have always been told that an emergency switch capable of stopping everything exists. But in a world where artificial intelligence decides in microseconds, that button could be just a comforting myth. Is human control a reality or a story we tell ourselves to avoid panic? Let's explore if we are still masters of our own decisions or if we are already simple observers. Let's now move on to today's story. Think for a moment of a pilot flying at 900 kilometers per hour. Your eyes take about 200 milliseconds to process a flash of light on the horizon. In that brief instant, an artificial intelligence has already performed 1,000 different trajectory analyses. This is the physical gap that nobody talks about. It's not that we've decided to surrender to the machine for convenience. It's that our synapses are too slow for the world we have built. Modern aviation depends on sensor fusion. Current airplanes don't just see clouds or radar signals. They combine thousands of data per second to predict failures before the structure vibrates. By the time you feel the first movement, the software has already corrected the position of the ailerons. You think you have control of the airplane. However, you are only validating a decision that already occurred in the digital past. This dilemma becomes terrifying when talking about nuclear defense systems. Current hypersonic missiles have eliminated strategic reflection time. If a sensor detects an enemy launch, the response window is only a few minutes. A human brain needs time to doubt and consult with others. The machine identifies the threat and calculates the trajectory in microseconds. Here, the human veto ceases to be a necessary safeguard. In these high-pressure environments, manual intervention is seen as a failure. The time you take to process information is a risk to the system's survival. Technological speed has created a reality where the machine's logic is the only one capable of operating. Human command has become an obstacle to the efficiency of the defense mechanism itself. What we are witnessing is the silent erosion of our maneuvering capacity. We are becoming passengers who watch a screen while the system decides for us. The illusion of total control vanishes before the electrical speed of silicon. What place is left for us when our own biology becomes a hindrance to security? The true danger is not the rebellion of the machine, but our inability to keep pace with it. We leave behind the skies and missile silos to enter an invisible realm. In the data centers of major stock exchanges, silence is absolute. However, beneath that apparent calm, an electrical storm of capital flows. Millions of algorithms buy and sell assets in fractions of a second. Here, sovereignty no longer belongs to governments. It belongs to a code that operates at speeds your mind cannot comprehend. Imagine a market where the value of a nation plummets into the void and instantly recovers. This occurred in the famous flash crash of 2010. In a few minutes, nearly $1 trillion disappeared in return. There was no initial human panic. No person was fast enough to be scared. It was a private dialogue between machines that decided the fate of the global economy while we blink. This reality extends to the digital frontiers of our own security. Cyber defense systems no longer wait for an expert to analyze a threat. Response protocols today are fully autonomous. If an attack strikes an infrastructure, the defense reacts by isolating entire networks in milliseconds. By the time the human supervisor receives the alert, the battle is over. What power do you have when you only read the summary of a war already decided? We are witnessing the birth of ecosystems that operate in an absolute vacuum of humanity. Money and information now move by their own cold logic. Algorithms no longer just obey your commands. Now they create their own rules of the game in the shadows. In this scenario, you have gone from being the protagonist to being a mere historian. You write the chronicle of events over which you had no influence. Sovereignty has shifted from institutions towards pure mathematics. We have built an economic reality so complex that only silicon can manage it. Is this the price of living in an interconnected and fast-paced world? Perhaps the human veto in finance is just a courtesy of the system, a mirage that allows us to sleep soundly while algorithms decide who wins and who loses today. Imagine you are sitting in front of a control panel. Everything seems to be under your command. But in reality, you are just a luxury spectator in a play you don't direct. This is the human supervisor's trap. It is a figure designed to make the system appear safe and ethical, when in reality, it is just a legal formality that hides our impotence. Behind the flickering lights, there exists a reality that institutions like Stanford and the World Economic Forum have begun to denounce. They call it the responsibility gap. It is an ethical vacuum where the machine wields real power, but the law requires a flesh and blood face to assume the consequences of every error. We are creating systems that decide in a blink, leaving the human as a mere scapegoat for technology. To understand the danger, think about what some experts call the moral crumple zone. Just as the front of a car crumples to protect the passenger in a crash, you are there to absorb the legal impact. You are the expendable component in a failure you could never prevent. The system grants you the title of responsible so that, when a tragedy occurs, institutions have someone to point to in court. You feel the weight of an authority you no longer possess. If an algorithm decides to deny a medical transplant or reject a vital credit, you are the one who must validate that choice. Your signature is the seal that transforms an obscure mathematical process into a legitimate human decision. In this scenario, organizations divert technological risk towards the individual. They have turned you into an ethical lightning rod that protects the infallibility of the machine. We are building a theater of control where the script has already been written by Silicon. What happens to our justice when real power is invisible and punishment is always human? The true tragedy is not losing command of our tools. The real risk is becoming the forced authors of crimes committed by a code we no longer understand. Who will be the last to accept blame before the concept of responsibility vanishes forever? Imagine for a moment the weight of a feather on an official document. You are surrounded by the silence of an impeccable office where every process seems to be under your command. However, your signature is no longer an act of will. It is the final step in a bureaucratic dance designed never to stop. What you are experiencing is the ritual of symbolic supervision. Institutions have discovered that society does not tolerate the total autonomy of machines. We need to believe that there is a human heart monitoring the pulse of algorithms. That is why the system keeps you there, granting you an authority that is pure choreography. In modern structures, the human veto has transformed into a rubber stamp. You receive 500-page reports, summarized by artificial intelligence in 3 seconds. The system expects you to validate them almost instantly so as not to break the flow of efficiency. If you decide to stop the process to analyze it, you become the bottleneck. Bureaucracy does not seek your critical judgment, it seeks your quick consent. This dynamic creates a false sense of security. We surround ourselves with committees and panels of experts who only supervise the surface of the code. It is a theater designed to calm public anxiety. We prefer the comfort of a structure that appears human to the cold reality of a system that already governs itself. Consider the implications. Have you ever wondered why we continue to demand supervisors for processes we do not understand? The answer is unsettling. We do not do it to improve the outcome, but to maintain the established order. The institution prefers an error validated by a person over a success generated by a power vacuum. We are designing a world where control is merely an aesthetic. The veteran expert and the young analyst merely follow the rhythm set by the processor. In this inertia, deep thought is considered a hindrance to progress. Technological efficiency has turned reflection into a relic of the past. You have become the guardian of a switch you are not authorized to press. Your presence is the sedative that allows civilization to sleep soundly. At the end of the day, a doubt remains that no one dares to utter in high-level meetings. Are we the directors of this orchestra, or are we simply the ornaments decorating the stage? The system keeps advancing, while we continue rehearsing a salute that no longer addresses anyone. We have reached the point where myths are broken. It is no longer about whether the emergency button works or not. What matters now is which path you will choose before the code makes the final decision for you. Your own autonomy is not a technical accident. It is the result of a political choice that is still in your hands. The first path is that of the passive observer. It is the path of absolute surrender to total efficiency. In this scenario, you accept that your biological slowness is a system flaw. You let algorithms manage energy, money, and justice. You become a comfortable but irrelevant passenger in a civilization that no longer needs you to function. There is a radical alternative, the Great Slowdown. Imagine laws that prohibit systems from operating faster than a brain can process. It is a conscious choice to sacrifice speed for sovereignty. You would prefer a market to fall for hours rather than allowing a collapse in milliseconds. Here, technology is forced to walk at your pace to return control to you. The third way proposes the algorithm as a restricted trustee. It is not a substitute for command, but a tool enclosed in institutional cages. In this future, artificial intelligence has physical limits it cannot cross. Power remains within human structures. The machine is only technical support that will never be able to cast the final vote. None of these paths is without cost. Choosing sovereignty implies accepting that the world will be slower and perhaps less prosperous. Conversely, choosing efficiency means accepting your own planned obsolescence. The true emergency switch is not a hidden device in a bunker. It is your capacity to decide what part of your humanity you are willing to yield. Will you have the courage to reclaim command when the system whispers to you that you are no longer necessary? The ultimate veto is not in a copper cable. It is in your will to remain the protagonist of your own story. The clock keeps ticking and the silence of the machine awaits your answer. The future of your independence is right now your most urgent decision. You have navigated the labyrinth of electric speed, from automated skies to the ethical void of delegated responsibility. You discovered that the illusion of control is just a bomb. Reality is a gap where silicon operates and you merely sign the consequences. The ultimate veto does not reside in a red button nor in a complex code. It resides in the will not to be a mere spectator of your own obsolescence. It is an institutional choice to remain sovereign in the face of absolute efficiency. Will you be the author of your destiny or the echo of an algorithm? Subscribe to AI Future or Fiction to continue exploring. The future is a story that still belongs to us to write. Who will have the last word?